What's going on, guys? It's Kai back here with another video, and today I want to talk a little bit about our guy, the legend Terrence Stotts. I actually wanted to make this video like last week, but I had other things going on, and since then the Blazers have played 3 games against the Hornets, the Warriors, and the Kings, and we squeaked out wins in all 3. So I bet some people are like, why do you feel the need to make this video? We're on a 3-game winning streak. Well, even with those 3 wins, I still feel like we nearly blew all 3 of those games, and I really think that all 3 had to come down to coaching. It's funny that we still managed to squeak out wins we probably don't deserve, simply based off the fact that Damian Lillard is that good and that he can carry any team at any point, no matter what the circumstances. I mean, let's be completely honest. Ever since the Pelicans series, I would say his job has not been safe, and Lillard going ballistic every year like 3 or 4 separate times has kept his job safe, simply put. I also think it's important to note that I am not making this video based off of emotion. Everything that I'm about to explain and go into depth to has statistical backing. Like, I'm not that kind of person that's just going to say they hate their coach because the team's losing. Like, it really is so much deeper than that, and that's what I want to explain today. The first thing I really want to talk about as far as Terry Stotts goes is I truly believe, and I say this because one day I see myself as being a coach, but I truly believe that there are 3 different aspects that go into coaching that are the most important. And those 3 aspects are leadership, adaptability, and X's and O's. And I think everything can really boil down to those 3 things. First, let's talk leadership. Now, as far as a coach goes for leadership, especially in basketball, I think some of the most important things you can be are truthfully, and this might sound kind of funny, but I think being a leader is really important if you're going to be a coach, especially of a bunch of grown men in a professional team. It's one thing to be a college coach and be the oldest person there and be in charge of a bunch of kids, 18, 19, 20 years old, but it's completely different when you're a professional coach and you're in charge of a bunch of grown people, older vets like Carmelo Anthony and younger guys like Anthony Simons. It's kind of a hard job, and I fully understand that. However, with that being said, I do not think Terry Stotts is a good motivator whatsoever. And the reason I say this is because I've seen over the past years, I've seen us come out flat in the 3rd quarter countless times. More times than not, it seems we come out really hot. We're really one of the best first quarter scoring teams in the entire NBA, especially this season counting. And then at the halftime, we get completely outcoached. It's a matter of the other team adjusts at what we've been doing, and then we don't adjust anything and they catch up. It happens all the time, and it's something that I'm sick and tired of seeing. Now, the next aspect of coaching that I want to talk about that I also don't think Stotts does very well is adaptability. And I actually think this is the most important thing when you're talking about coaching. You have to be adaptable. You can't just stick with the same thing all game, every single game, because it's not going to work like that. Other teams have great coaches, they have great schemes, they know how to counteract what we've been doing, especially considering we've been doing the same thing for 8 years in a row, not really implementing anything new, completely relying on Damian Lillard ISO, CJ McCollum ISO, or Carmelo Anthony post-up. It really doesn't come down to anything else than that, and I think that's why we have problems, especially in the playoffs, when teams can really lock in on those 3 players and then make somebody else beat them. And in seasons past, those players that they make beat them are Al-Farouq Aminu, Maurice Harkless, Evan Turner. I mean, Rodney Hood had a really great series as a 3rd option, so that was great, but since then he's been pretty bad. So we've really been looking for that 3rd guy, and the problem really isn't necessarily personnel more than it is schemes. Like, for all my people that have watched a bunch of Blazer games these past few years, I want to ask you guys something. I want you to think about it. When was the last time you've seen the Blazers get an easy layup? Like a backdoor cut, wide open layup, easy 2. Because if you go watch the Warriors play, or even go as far as our division rivals in the Utah Jazz or the Denver Nuggets, they get wide open shots all the time, and it has to do with their ball movement. You can pass the ball faster than you can dribble with it. That is something Terry Stotts has never learned or ever heard of. Now, I don't want to be a complete hater and sound like I'm just hating on everything he does. One thing that I think this year, more than any other year, we have tried to adjust a bit is the defense. As by our 29th or 28th ranked defense, we're not exactly doing well at it yet. However, I think in the recent games, we've looked a little better on rotations, and I think we are getting better, but there's still a lot of work to be done, especially on the defensive side. Now, the last thing I want to talk about with Terry Stotts, as far as being a good coach goes, in my opinion, is the problem he has with his X's and O's. Now, I'm sure anybody that hasn't watched the Blazers play consistently is going to say, well, Lillard averages almost 30, and CJ McCollum averages like 28, and Melo is playing great. How are we have bad sets on offense? That doesn't make any sense. Well, it actually does completely, because if you've ever watched us play, you would know that our sets are completely reliant, and I'm doing a quote with my fingers when I say sets. They're completely reliant on Lillard going ISO or pick and roll. And I don't mean like completely and I'm just being sarcastic about it. I mean every single play is either a Dame Lillard pick and roll, a Lillard isolation, a CJ isolation, or a Carmelo ISO or post up. We don't do anything else. And it makes you wonder, what is Terry Stotts even doing out there? What is he watching? What is he adjusting? Is he even doing his job? Because if we were literally only going to do ISO, post up, and pick and roll every single game with no motion, no freelance, no sets, no horns, no nothing, then Terry Stotts doesn't even need to be there. He could be at home. If that's all we're going to do, there's no reason for him to be there. He's not actually coaching. Now, it's one thing to be bad in the regular season and to get outcoached in the regular season, right? But when it really matters in the playoffs, let's talk about what he's done. I want to go back to one series that really impacted my opinion on Terry Stotts, and that was the Pelicans series back in 2016. Now, I remember firsthand watching this series, and we were the 3 seed, we were playing the 6 seed. The seeds were separated by like 4 games, the 2 through the 7, so we were all really close, but we were the better seed and we had home court advantage. And there was no COVID, there was a ton of fans, home court really mattered. So we go into those first 2 games, and what the Pelicans did was they double-teamed Lillard off of every pick and roll, and they were doing it at half court. And at the time, they had Rondo and Drew Holiday, who were tremendous guard on-ball defenders, and they made Lillard's life terrible. And they made it somebody else beat them. And it was Al-Farouq Aminu that played really well because he literally got wide open dunks and 3-pointers all game, and we still couldn't even get one game. And this is a series in which they didn't even have DeMarcus Cousins because he tore his Achilles that year. So we were playing the AD Pelicans and we got swept. That was one of the most embarrassing moments as a Blazer fan I've ever experienced firsthand, because not only was that a series we should have won, we didn't even get a game, and it was because Terry Stotts could not figure out how to stop a double team against his best player. He couldn't get him open. He couldn't figure out how to beat the double team. And you know how we ended up beating that double team after that year and not letting it happen anymore? Lillard started shooting 3-pointers from 34 feet out. So then defenses had to adjust. It wasn't even because Terry Stotts figured out a great plan on to help his best player. It was Damian Lillard getting in the lab and saying, okay, I'm going to extend my range to 35 feet so that they can't double team me off of pick and rolls. It's actually pretty astonishing, and nobody's ever brought this up. I think people think that Terry Stotts just figured out how to adjust to the defense. He's never done that before, so don't ever think he would do that. The last thing I really want to talk about is our offensive scheme as a whole. We've already talked about how it's completely reliant on ISOs and pick and roll and super basic things. But the real problem that, in my opinion, we have is that we are so predictable because we are by far and away the team that shoots the most contested jump shots in the NBA. And actually, it's not even really close at all. We are number 1 by far. And I think the problem is this is never going to change because we still win games. And I think the real issue is that we have 3 of, in my opinion, you could argue CJ McCollum, but 3 of the best contested jump shot shooters of all time on our team right now, so we get away with it. Lillard can hit those shots, so it doesn't get brought up as much. If Lillard, McCollum, and Carmelo weren't unbelievable at contested jump shots, we would not be as good as we are today. I guess all I'm really trying to say is, as a Blazer fan, it's super frustrating knowing that, number 1, we are going to be one of the worst defensive teams in the NBA. Every year we have Terry Stotts. Number 2, we're going to be one of, if not the worst passing teams in the NBA, as we are this year with Terry Stotts. And number 3, when it comes to the playoffs, we're going to get outcoached because we run the same sets every game and we expect them to work because Damian Lillard is that amazing. And sometimes it does work. But when it comes to playoff time, like I said, teams tighten up and shit that works in the regular season does not work in the playoffs. But that's really all I got for today. It just really frustrates me watching other teams like the Jazz that have Quinn Snyder, like the Nuggets that have Mike Malone, like other great teams that have great coaches that manage to win games they probably shouldn't just based off of coaching. I don't think we've ever won a game we probably shouldn't have because we outcoached the other team. Maybe when we played the Sixers and they had Brett Brown, but that might be just about it. So that's all I have for today. If you guys enjoyed the video, please leave a like, comment, subscribe, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.